give me some stats about like how, because a lot of people are like, well, people aren't going to go vegan. They want their meat. What kind of,
Yeah.
how many people need to do this for us to make a measurable difference on wildlife? Because that's what you've been discussing. I want to tie it into climate change right after this, but you've been discussing biodiversity.
Yeah, okay. So the impact on wildlife, yes, and climate. Um, this is huge. It's so different to the commonly held belief. The most wasteful thing we do is what we eat, and of that, the most wasteful food is red meat. And I'll tell you why. Most people think that okay, factory farms, yeah, that's horrible. We shouldn't be doing that. But cows grazing in meadows on land that cannot be used as cropland, this is good and natural and it looks fine. Surely that's not harmful. But the fact is that is the most harmful of all the practices we do. Grazing cows and sheep is the most harmful thing that we do. And the reason for that is this. It's totally land and it's totally habitat. Um, if if all of the red meat production in North America was from grass-fed, okay, not crop-fed, not lot-fed, but grass-fed. If it was all grass-fed, we would need 4 times the area of what we have now. In other words, you'd need to take over all of North America and a big chunk of South America just to produce the so-called, good red meat.
You
So
mean, so this is an answer to the folks who want their meat pasture raised
yes,
or through regenerative farming, who
yes,
argue for regenerative farming. You're saying that that is not the solution because cows,
yes.
but they're eating grass, not crops. Is it because they're taking so much land space? Is that the issue?
Absolutely, yes. Grass-fed, pasture-range beef is the most destructive thing that we do. Um, in 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 most countries, North America included, most of the land that is now grazing land was forest. Um, so taking away that forest, by the way, it contains most of the world's biodiversity. It contains 90% of the above ground carbon. They're in, Forests are incredibly valuable for our future. We just don't realize how valuable. So anything we can do to replace the forest that we've taken down in the past, to regrow that forest. Near you, you've probably got growing cities and you've probably got new suburbs going in that used to be forest. And you look at that and you say, wow, that's so destructive, that new suburb that's gone in. Where I was look over 30 years, we were monitoring this deforestation just in Queensland. And the average for 30 years, every day, 10 square kilometres is being taken out for pasture, pasture-fed, grass-fed beef and sheep. So you've got the equivalent of 2 suburbs every day being cleared and burned
Mhm.
just for that food. So, we don't live in the country. We live in the cities and we see the suburbs going in and we think, oh, that's awful, that sprawl, that urban sprawl. But the agricultural sprawl is the thing that's killing us. If you look at how at the area taken up of what's on our planet, the cities and the built up areas and the roads and the transport and the air, all of those take up 1% of the land. But grazing takes up 37% of the land and crops take up 12%. So grazing is by far the biggest land use we have. And it's like the default. If you look out the window and you're traveling on train or car or whatever, in the countryside, if you look out the window, most of that country is grazing land or it's crops for animals.
Mhm.
So That used to be natural habitat. It used to be savannas or rangelands or forest or rainforest or wetlands or that been drained. That's what it used to be, and that was habitat at one point, and that was holding carbon. But now it's all been released. The carbon in the land that we now use for grazing is released in the atmosphere. And this is where it makes a difference. If you turned 37% of the land back to nature, if you rewilded that land, number one, all that extra habitat would see the end of the sixth great extinction. We would survive.
So it's clear to me from what you're saying that from a animal wildlife habitat perspective, animal agriculture is absolutely devastating. And
Yeah.
if we were to reverse that, we would solve one of the big issues, which is the sixth mass extinction of wildlife that is happening on the planet. Now, how does animal ag tie into climate change, though?
Animal agriculture and climate change. These two are interlinked a lot more than the common story goes. Animal agriculture has a profound impact on climate change. The work I'm doing now, in fact, it's in peer review in a science peer journal at the moment. But the work I'm doing now shows that all the deforestation that we've done on planet Earth has released more carbon dioxide than fossil fuels. And it's the way we've been accounting for deforestation emissions in the past that's hidden that. But if you look at it consistently, if you do the greenhouse accounting consistently, you'll see that most of the carbon dioxide that we've released has come from deforestation and not from fossil fuels. So that's the big one. Okay, there's three things here. The next one is methane, or methane, I think it's called in North America. Methane is an incredible gas. Now, for years now, we've been arguing about, in the science community, there's a lot of argument about how do we compare methane with carbon dioxide. You ask most people, what causes global warming? And they'll say carbon dioxide and fossil fuels. But the funny thing is that when we burn fossil fuels, we release carbon dioxide, yes, but we also release sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, and those actually form aerosols that cool the planet. This is called global dimming that you may have heard of, and it's been ongoing. So in big industrial areas, you have this white smog in the atmosphere, and that's actually been cooling the planet. And it's from the coal-fired power stations and the dirty diesel, basically. So this cooling has actually balanced out all of the warming from the carbon dioxide from fossil fuels. So, so this is the really interesting thing. And there's been some science that came out a couple of years ago looking at these radiative forcing. I'm sorry to use these terms, but they're new and they're more accurate than what's been used in the past. But up to now, fossil fuels have caused less than 20% of global warming. Isn't that amazing?
Is that because of that global cooling that is is mitigating it?
Exactly right.
Now you're giving an argument to people who say, you see, we can just keep going at business as usual because look, it's canceling itself out.
Yeah, but the problem is that around the world there've been lots of efforts to clean up the skies to get rid of that because it causes acid rain and it causes respiratory problems, all sorts of nasty things. So governments have been trying to clean up and they've been very effective at cleaning up the atmosphere. And because of that, the cooling effect of these aerosols is diminishing rapidly. And that is the reason why global warming is accelerating because we're taking the cooling away and we're letting the warming go rampant.
Well, I thought it was because of the fact that there was an accumulation. For example, the heat is causing less snow to be on the mountain so that the sun is not reflecting off that snow. It's melting because of warming, and now the world has become darker, so we're absorbing more of the heat. And it's just this cycle of us digging ourselves deeper and deeper into climate change.
Yes, yes, you're dead right. This is what I'll explain is just one of the
Mm.
reasons the global warming is accelerating, but it's about to be the major reason. So carbon dioxide has been from fossil fuels has been masked. So the warming we're experiencing right now, where has that come from? And half of the warming we're experiencing right now has come from methane. So most of that methane, we know the biggest source of methane is animal agriculture. Okay. Methane's an amazing gas. It only lasts about 10 years in the atmosphere. So it's incredibly warming, but it doesn't last that long. So this is great news for modifying our future. If we want to cool the planet, we've got to find something that will leave the atmosphere really quickly. And the only thing that can do that is methane. So if we have enough determination, we can actually cool the planet in the coming decades just by reducing the methane emissions. And of course, the biggest one is animal agriculture, followed by coal mine and fracking.